Welcome to Family Lifescaping, where we explore how we influence our environment through joy and wellness. Hello, we're the Kings. I'm Michael.
And I'm Catherine. And today we're going to be discussing saying no to stress.
This is a huge topic.
It is, especially recently, it's been kind of taken up a notch or two. Now, saying no is not an easy thing to do, but it's really important.
Yeah, this is one of my biggest problems.
Right, and linked to stress. So stress is like a natural process.
It is. We're all born with what's called fight or flight. And that's where the stress originates from. So what happens is, in a split second, you have a choice. You can actually stand your ground and fight, or you're going to flee. And this is a result of predators, because we are a prey.
Sometimes, yes. But so having this in small doses is really important thing to have. But with our environment, things have changed that we now have too many stresses going on. And then this affects our body in a really unhealthy way. So our bodies are not designed to accumulate all this stress. Now, there are several different external stresses that we can talk about.
So external stresses, life changes, environmental stresses, unpredictable events.
Which has happened a lot.
No need to go into that.
I think we're going to have to get used to having more of those types of events in our lives.
Curveballs, yep.
Yeah. Workplace,
I really don't know who wakes up in the morning and is like, yay, I'm ready to go to work. It's more like, for me, like, okay, really? Okay, gonna get up and go to work. Start out being stressed from the moment I wake up.
That's not good.
No. Social interactions.
Now, for some people, that isn't such a stressful thing, but for others, it is, and something to be aware of. But then there are internal factors too.
We all have fears, so fear would be an internal factor for us. Uncertainty, or the lack of control. Who likes that? Does that not stress everybody out?
But that's something internal that we can
work on.
Yeah.
Beliefs, or sometimes justifying your beliefs. Anxiety, not one of these are really healthy. No. Stress has been described as the epidemic of the 21st century.
Yeah. And stress, there's generally three general classifications for stress. Your first one, you have acute stress. And this is typically very short term. Think about a future event, whether it's to do with work or like for an interview or in life, for example. Weddings, yes. So you have all this planning to do, you're heading for this end goal, but it's stressful, especially when you're having to deal with families and the interactions of bringing everything together. But as soon as the wedding has happened and it's been successful, hopefully.
That's very important, being successful.
Then all that stress can be released straight away. Although throughout that process, you're going to get things like headaches are going to be common, or stomach aches. So those are things to watch out for. But then the second one is episodic. I always trouble saying that word. But that's when more of the acute stresses happen more frequently. And it could be like you have too many tasks going on.
That's a problem. Too many tasks.
This happens to me a lot. I'm kind of like the headless chicken running around because I just have so many tasks going on. I just don't know where to start. So I don't. That's one of my problems.
But have you ever thought about the image of a headless chicken? I really don't think you fall in that classification.
Oh, thank you. So, but multitasking. Studies have been shown that multitasking has negative effects. At work, for example, you could have gone to work, planned out everything you're going to do that day, and then your boss comes along and in a blink of an eye, you've got 3 other tasks, all with tight deadlines. And this is where you can get too much multitasking. Is not an efficient way of being.
No, it's not. I do not multitask well at all.
No, he doesn't. If I'm not, like, especially when you're thinking about something, if it's not in that box, we don't communicate very well.
No, that is not necessarily true. The problem is when I'm in the box, or in my box, whatever it is, and I'm thinking about something, I'm deep into that subject, and it just takes time to come back out. But when I'm interrupted and something is another task
Because
or
us
whatever,
women have multiple things going on in our head at the same time.
it does stress me out but this really does stress me out because as I'm pulling myself back into the here and now, figuring out what now is happening, going on, I know that project or subject I've been working on is now incomplete. And that's sitting in the back of my mind. That does cause stress.
So in other words, I cause my husband a lot of stress. But
that is not necessarily true.
When all of those, whatever it is, that's your multitasking or all these other stresses we've been talking about, when they keep happening and they're adding up, you then have chronic stress. And this is devastating. This is something you definitely want to avoid.
This has severe health
Yeah.
consequences.
Yeah. This is where you're kind of like, over time, you're grinding yourself down. And but for some people it's ingrained into them. Like they can be so used to it, or it's just natural for them. You know, they can't find a way out. They cannot find a solution. So they just internalize everything.
And they continue to do that. And the really bad part about this is people will do this and not even realize they're doing this.
Yeah. It turns into a normal feeling for
It's
them.
normal.
And when something like that goes unnoticed, your body's going to get to a point where it's just like, okay, enough's enough, and it just breaks down. And that's when all the health problems can happen, you know, or violent reactions, or unfortunately, sometimes this is where suicide occurs. But we all have different abilities of coping with stress. Some people like to just take it in their stride. It doesn't seem to faze them. But then there are some of us that we just fall to pieces when it comes to stress.
Or some of us have to walk away, go by themselves,
in a dark
scream
room.
if they have to scream, or just let it out some way.
Outlet.
And at that point in time can come back in and deal with it.
Yeah, so for all of us, it's about finding that personal balance. You know, what is our mental capacity and versus the demands that are being faced upon us, like on a daily basis.
Yes.
And personality, your attitude.
It all comes.
I don't know why I looked at you when I said attitude.
My
Sorry.
attitude, apparently it's bad.
It's not.
All the time.
Yeah, where there's anyway, that's another subject. But also your philosophy in life. They will all influence the effects of stress on
Definitely.
us. But there are different signs to watch out for. And some of the emotional signs we can...
So some of the signs you need to watch out for, I shouldn't say you, but in general, people need to watch out for depression. If you're seeing somebody that you know that's depressed continually, they may need help. They may not know how to reach out for that help. If you're dealing with people that are anxious all the time, they may need help. And we have a daughter that takes on far too much at her age, and she becomes anxious about numerous things.
Yeah, she worries about things. And it's something we have to be aware of.
And we're trying to help her. We really are. Irritability. This is one of my signs. I can be the grumpy bear, very irritable. I try to control it because it's been brought to my attention multiple times. So I'm going to try to work on that one. Low sex drive. Memory and concentration issues. Now, see, I don't know about that because my concentration's good until I'm interrupted. Then I have lack of concentration trying to figure out what's going on. So what is it? You're just looking at me. Okay, so let's just say concentration and what is that? Memory issues. Yeah, we'll just stay with that then. Then compulsive behavior. I do notice that I will fall in that category also sometimes when I'm really stressed out, because it's not an issue of being compulsive necessarily. It is the issue of fine whatever, and I've got to watch on that myself. Mood swings. We all have mood swings at times, and that's a big key to watch out
you see
for.
that with kids especially, but there's things like anger. You know, you've got to be careful. You don't want to be taking that out on loved ones or anyone for that matter. But then there are physical signs
Yes.
for stresses. And so that could be like your low energy, headaches, stomach upsets, aches, pains, tense muscles. And I get a lot of that in my shoulders.
Yes, I can feel the knots in her shoulders.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. You can end up with chest pain. I've had that on occasions too. Insomnia, you constantly getting another cold. Your body's just having that reaction. Shaking, nervousness, ringing in the ears, dry mouth. You could also be grinding your teeth or clenching your jaw. And I had that a couple of years ago when we were dealing with some emotional stresses in our life. And so I did some things to help with that. But we got rid of that stress and I don't have a problem with my jaw anymore. So there's things that you can watch out for in finding out what is the cause of that physical sign. Because it's really important that we manage our stress levels for our overall health. We need to be able to keep our stress hormones in a good range. Otherwise, as mentioned, it can weaken our immune system. And over time, that can also affect any of our other body systems that we have. So when I was living in London, before I started dating you, my dear, I had some physical and emotional stresses that got the better of me. And it was a build-up over years, and my body finally just shut down. And I lost a lot of weight in a very short period of time because my problems manifested in my digestive tract. And after going to multiple doctors, having lots and lots of different tests, it took me a year of not having wheat or gluten or dairy for also having to clear out some of those added emotional stresses that popped up, those triggers. I had a really understanding boss at that time, and she let me work from home. And this is before working from home was a fashionable thing to do. But it was so I could be close to a bathroom, and I still got my work done, but it was also a way that I could do more of healing and regenerating my body and having that time out. And then I started dating Michael, and he, all of that, he helped me get back on track. But there are more serious things with stress, like heart disease and stuff like that can actually happen, which can be deadly.
Mm-hmm.
So managing stress, and this is what lifescaping is all about. It's, you get to choose how you build your life. So there are a few options that we can discuss about helping to manage stress. So for example, like time. It's really important that we take time for ourselves. Time is an element. It refuels energy.
Well, there's time in and of itself, the concept of time, or it has actually been given a bad connotation when you take time for yourself. There are different terms for it. People will call you selfish, things like that. But the truth is that if you give of your time, and you give and you give and you give, your battery will run dry. And when your battery runs dry, what can you do? You need to have that time to start recharging. And if people or you have friends that see that, it's also good if they give to you some. It's not always you giving. People need to reach out and help you also, so that you can recharge your batteries, that you can give of your time again, and you can go forward.
I mean, giving is a really good thing. But if your energy bank is empty to begin with, you have nothing.
If you continue drawing on whatever reserves you have after your battery is dry, eventually you will break down.
And this, I can say this as a mom, you're there for your kids 24/7, no matter what. But there's a time where you need time out, and I need to recharge my batteries. Otherwise, I'm not there for them in a way that I need to be.
True.
So other ways to manage stress, relaxing.
That's nice.
Yeah, so, you can play some relaxing music or go to a spa. Some people like to do yoga. There's also prayer and meditation can be helpful too. But then there's also things like exercise, something that not everyone loves to do. But it's been proven that exercising has some great benefits.
It definitely does.
Like, so we like to take family walks, and that's kind of morphed into taking nature trails wherever we can. And it's a place where our daughters they just will chat away, and it's a place where we can
Definitely,
talk.
we can talk.
So it's calming, it's getting outside, which we discussed a couple of weeks ago how important that is. And it has a really big positive influence.
It does. I've noticed two things. There's probably many, many more, but two things. One is when you have the chance, you're walking along and you see nature. If it's a bird, if it's a squirrel, whatever it is. We happen to have seen a bird and it was not paying us any attention at all. And it was on a tree, it was doing its own thing. We all stopped, we looked at it, and it's just like the tension kind of melts away and you just kind of relax. But then on the walk itself, talking to my daughters and trying to teach them to push yourself a little bit, and you will break through, quote unquote, the wall, and you'll start feeling better. And that's the endorphins releasing in your system, and you can do more and you can go further. And working with them and seeing them start to get it and understand it and feel it, that helps also. And the tension, like I said, just starts melting away.
Well, I can see that tension melt from you, especially, after a few days at work at the hospital, and then we go for a family walk, and you can see him, he sort of stands taller, swagger in your step, but just like the smile, see that smile that you're giving right now, you just like, you can tell you're releasing those stresses that you've been dealing with and putting them aside, which is great. And all that fresh air is so good for us.
True.
But what's the point of all that fresh air if you're not having, if you've got a poor diet? So nutrition is kind of key too. And we're not talking just about, the fast food of this world. It's our daily choices that we
Definitely.
choose. Eating a balanced diet. What are we buying from the stores? And there are studies to show, there's an increase in heart disease, which is, can be caused from stress too, but it's also linked with sugar. And so checking the ingredients of everything, avoiding all those, corn syrups that they're sneaking in.
Which is stressful in and of itself, because you go to the supermarket or grocery store just down the block from you or whatever, and you go through and you start looking to try to find good quality food, and you look at something that's been processed or packaged, or you would think that nothing would be in it, and you turn around and you look and it's corn syrup. Why do you need corn syrup in this? Why does this particular product need to be sweet?
They just want you coming back for more. So it's those long-term health decisions that we have to make. But having said that, chocolate is one of my stress relievers. Now, I won't touch the Hershey's stuff. In my opinion, that's not real chocolate. But I am very conscious that I have an addiction to chocolate, and it's something that is not good for my health.
I have to be honest about this, is that before marrying my wife, chocolate, Hershey's was good. I was like, yeah, that's fine, I'll eat Hershey's or whatever. But then my eyes were open to the European recipes and varieties.
The real stuff, as I call it.
And I have to agree with her on that, that I like European, or I like that chocolate much more now than I used to, or I even knew.
I may be causing him to have a problem too. But it's something that I'm conscious of and that I know I have to work on. Because I also, when I'm under stress, I love to eat. It's one of those, stress eating is a big thing for us. So another thing is also, remember we're talking about managing stress, is priorities.
Yes.
Guess what? You get to design your own lifescape. It is okay to say no. We've added way too much to our schedule. And there are times, and we're trying to improve upon that, but there are times where you have to stand up to yourself and just say no. This is like for your long-term health.
Now, see, the really, really great thing about this and designing your own lifescape is you, as we keep saying, are the best gatekeeper. When you know yourself, it is okay to say no. Now, we live in a society that it tends to not allow you to say no, or that it's not okay. But when you know yourself well enough and somebody comes to you and says, here's another project, whoever it is, it doesn't have to be work, it could be family, it could be whatever, but you know yourself and you know that if you take on this task or this responsibility, that it is going to stretch you out and you're going to be stressed, it is definitely okay to say no. That really is your right to say no.
Now, obviously, when you say no, you got to say it in a nice way.
Yes, definitely a nice way. It's just like, no, I'm not going to do that. No, and it's not a bad thing to say or explain yourself. It's not bad to say, I just have too much going on.
And it's not fair for people to put demands on you when you know there's going to be a negative impact on yourself. But we have to be realistic. You know, we cannot do everything. So this is where priorities take place. So we don't overdo it. But it's definitely easier said than done. And that's something, you know, we definitely have to continue to work upon. But another one that's good is diffusing essential oils. That has made a huge difference for us, and especially with the children too.
Well, one of the things about essential oils, before we get into specifics on that, is that there is a lot of research out there. I checked not long ago that there were well over 800 studies going on about essential oils, but not just essential oils, the effect of essential oils in your brain. And there are a lot of connections there in research that back this up.
Yeah, definitely. And there's things like, you know, to help with occasional stress and anxiety, you know, a very popular oil is frankincense. Now, they've been using frankincense for thousands of years in the Middle East and still do to this day.
Well, frankincense is so valuable in the Middle East. There are basically the highest grade quality of frankincense you cannot get. And it is reserved for, quote unquote, their royalty. Or
the royalty.
That should tell you something right there.
Yeah, depending on which country you're getting
it from.
Yeah, which country,
But
so we're dealing with a lot of stress that affect our immune system. So essential oils that are known to help with your immune system. And some people like oils such as geranium, rosemary, tea tree, lavender. And like lavender is well known for, you know, a very calming effect on your body and your mind. But in our household, we like a blend called Stress Away. You know, that blend, you smile, but that blend contains oils like ocotea, vanilla, lavender, and to me it reminds me of the beach. And who isn't relaxed and doesn't have any stresses when they're at the beach? And then there's the blend that you love, which is we all do actually. Kid is great for the kids, is peace and calming. And
well, I use that at work. And what will happen is when I know I'm going into a stressful situation, it's like when I first get to work and I see what's going on, I will go in and it's a roller ball, so I roll it on and I start my day with that, and then I will use it periodically through the day, and it really does help. I've seen a major effect on myself. But the interesting thing is when people smell it, because you smell these different oils, the first thing you smell is orange.
Or the tangerine.
Or tangerine? Is it tangerine? Yeah. Okay, my mistake. Tangerine. And
citrus oil, same thing.
What am I asked? I'm asked, well, can I have some? So I literally have been asked to give this to other people, and I have. And they've told me that, it makes a difference. So
yeah, it's a really good, as I said, the girls love it. So, you know, I will diffuse it for them at bedtime sometimes, or if there's a part of the day where they just need a little calming down. But there are other oils like Roman chamomile, and there's another blend called Valor, which is great too. But then there's also the CBD roll-on called Calm, and that's one that I will roll on me before bedtime. And that's a way for me to just shut down all the stresses that have been happening in the day, so that doesn't impact my sleep, because sleep is so important.
Definitely important.
But
that's a big subject with CBD.
Yeah, CBD is, and there's a lot of misconceptions out there, so we're gonna cover that in another one, like all the things that, you know, warnings to go with CBD, or things, some information
what it
you need.
actually is.
Yeah.
And the research that has been going on for numerous years that a lot of people didn't understand or know was going on.
Yeah.
That was sponsored by the government.
Well, that we'll save those stories for another
Yes,
time.
we'll
Otherwise,
save
we'll
that
be
for another
here for a long time. But so you can tell, you know, stress is a massive topic, and we have just scratched the surface with what we've discussed today. But it's all about finding out what works for you, because the important thing is to decrease your own personal stress. And that's for your long-term health benefits. You know, your both physical and emotional state.
Definitely.
In, you know, learning to let go, which something I have to work on.
Oh,
You know?
I think we all have to work on that.
Yeah, we cannot control everything in our life, and we've got to be honest with the situation that we're in, and whatever that situation is, and being able to identify the source of what stress you're going through. Obviously eliminate it, but if you can, then seek help from your loved ones and professional help. There's a lot of people out there that can help, that have been trained in help, because stress is so big. Because the long-term damage of stress, it's not worth it.
It's not.
Yeah. So don't forget, it's okay to say no. It really is. This is, you know, in our daily life, you just have to think about it. You know, it's going to be a battle every day.
No needs to be reinserted into our vocabulary
Nicely.
in a nice way.
Yes. So just remember, you are the best gatekeeper of your own personal lifescape.
Stay well.